Yeah, so already then I should have known that it was going to be a weird day.
Just a touch of your love is enough to knock me off of my feet, oh, just a touch of your love, just a touch of your love.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just did this makeup look, and I thought while I have makeup on, I may as well use it for another video. And I thought I could film a story time of one of my job interviews, and I mean I have a few, so I might make this like a series of job interview shenanigans. As some of you may know, myself and my husband moved to Canada it goes a few months ago now, and I have a 1-year working visa at the moment, and it seems to be a huge problem, so I've actually stopped telling people at the job interviews because pretty much nobody wants to hire me because I'm only allowed to stay here for 1 year and I have no guarantees of being able to extend my visa as of now. Yeah, so I do have a few funny stories. But this one, it was an interview for a call center, but the lady that interviewed me had, a really interesting personality and was just not happy with her life and her job by the looks of it. Or, I mean, I don't know. And so already on the way to this interview, I met some crazy people, and that should have warned me that it's not gonna be a good one. And yeah, so I came to the bus stop, and my housemate was standing there waiting for the same bus as me. So as I was coming up, I was waving at her, but she didn't see me. And there was this older man standing behind her, and I think that he assumed I was waving at him, even though afterwards I didn't even look at him, and I was talking to her. Anyway, when the bus was coming up, we started walking towards it because there was one bus that stopped at the bus stop, and our one, it wasn't ours, and the next one coming behind it was ours. So we started walking over to it because we thought that it was just gonna stop behind the first bus and open the door there. But that wasn't the case. So when it started moving, I went to turn around and walk back the other end of the bus stop, and the old man was behind me. I mean, he was touching my hair with his nose right behind me. And so when I turned around, I nearly knocked him out. He was oh. I'm okay. Anyway, so I got on the bus and it was quite full. So I was standing up and holding onto the bar. So I was holding the bar like this with my hand that has my rings on it. And he was standing right beside me. And he didn't look at my face. He was just looking this way in the direction of my hand. And I was looking at him because I didn't know what his deal was at that stage. And so he looks at my rings and he goes, I'm saying, are you for real? As if you had a chance if I weren't married. Are you serious? I was just laughing so hard on the side. I mean, it's bad to be laughing at somebody like that, but honestly, just dude, no. Anyway, so I got there 15 minutes early, and I walked in and there was this guy sitting at the reception desk. So immediately he stood up and shook my hand, and so he brought me into the office that was right across from his reception desk, and he asked me for some online form that I apparently was supposed to have filled out already, and I got no online form in my email or anything, so I was confused. So then he kind of made a face and he went back to the reception desk and grabbed a sheet of paper for me to fill out. So I sat there for about 10 minutes waiting, and obviously I had the sheet of paper filled out already. There was a few questions asking about like what my availability was, and obviously my name and address, and like a few questions like can they do a background check and do I have any criminal offences and just stuff like that. So the first page that has the availability for like each day, I remembered that on the online ad for the job, it said that there was shifts available. I couldn't exactly remember the first shift. I thought it was like 7 to 3, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. But I wasn't sure about it. So yeah, but the second one that I remember then, that was 1 to 9, what I seen. So I said for like nearly each day I put down I was available 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and I just left Saturday blank because I wanted to have at least one day off with my husband. So yeah, so then about 10 minutes later this lady comes in the door and she goes to shake my hand and she says, "You Stephanie?" And I go, "No." So she like grabs her hand, literally she was about to like shake my hand, so she grabs her hand and like spins around with an attitude and walks back to the reception desk, and I'm just standing there going like, okay. So then she comes back a few minutes later and no shaking hand now. She just, I think she did like mumble her name, which I don't remember anyway, and just like goes on the rant over the fact that they sent her in to interview Stephanie and I'm clearly not Stephanie. So I was just like, okay, when you're done, you let me know, okay? She asked me for a copy of my resume, which I mean I know that you should bring your resume in for every interview, but most of the time they'll let you know ahead if they do need you actually to bring it. So that's what I've been relying on because I don't have a printer and it's like super easy for me to get copies of it. So I didn't bring one because they didn't tell me to on the phone. So she just went, okay, and she got up and she went back to the reception desk to print a copy of my CV out. So then she comes back and she goes, right, so now that we have everything, and she starts looking at the sheet of paper that I filled out and she goes, so what is happening on Saturday? And I went, like in my mind I was like, none of your business, that's what's happening. And I just went, I have something else to do on Saturday so I can't come in, and that is every Saturday now. I'm like, yes, every Saturday. Well, I don't know about that. Okay, this is going great. I'm having a great time. So then she looks at the rest of the days and she goes, you do realize that we're open 24 hours a day? I was like, yes. So why are you not available 24 hours a day? I was like, girl, why did you give me a sheet of paper to fill out if you expect me to be available 24 hours a day? Like, are you kidding me? So I just looked at her and she went, well, we expect you to be available at least from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And I mean, that was mentioned somewhere in the ad, but clearly they can't expect everybody to be available in those hours. So I said to her, I rely on the bus service, so the buses are finished like between 11 and half 11. So definitely not staying till 2 a.m. How am I gonna get home? Like, are you gonna bring me home? Don't think so. So then she looks at me and she says, so if I put you in on the schedule till 1 a.m., what's going to happen? And I'm like, I won't be able to get home. So she goes, okay. Well, I don't know. And then she like calls over the guy from the reception desk and she says to him that like, she pretty much says to him that I'm being difficult and that like I don't even want to work till 2 a.m. I was like, and he says to me that pretty much they've been looking for people that could like work the afternoon, evening kind of a time. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I mean, you have another thing coming because I'm not going to be the one that you're going to roster in until 11 o'clock every night because like that's when I can get the bus, and I knew that would happen, that I would literally be there every day till 11 o'clock, and like that would mean that I would like never see Warren again. So just like, no, that ain't happening. And she looks at me and she says, but like, can you at least like work till 11? And I'm like, no, I want to work till 9. And I mean, I think that's late enough. And considering that I have to get a bus on my own, like I don't want to be walking around the city centre at all hours of the night waiting for the bus. And like, I know that over here it's a lot safer than like in Ireland, well, in Dublin, but I mean, I'm not gonna stand around the bus stops at 11 o'clock anyway. So she like still stands there and like stares at me like, am I for real? So she says, well, we might have a problem here, but I'm going to send whatever his name was to ask a superior and see if that's a problem, which I think it might be, but we'll ask anyway, and in the meantime we'll just continue on with the interview. And I was like, okay, good. So then like not even 2 minutes later, the guy from the reception desk like gestures to her that like I'm good to go. Like I knew that it's not a problem because you can always find like students or whoever that don't mind working till 11 o'clock or till 2 a.m. or whatever, but that's not me. Like maybe when I was 18 I would consider it, but not right now. So anyway, like the whole time she just couldn't keep herself from rolling her eyes, like whatever the problem was, and which I don't think is professional for somebody that is holding the interview to be sitting there huffing and puffing and rolling their eyes. But I don't know, that just might be how it works over here. She continued on to ask me like all these questions of like situations of like what would I do, and like she would ask me like what can I think of an occasion where I provided like an excellent customer service, and when I started to answer she goes, one occasion I'm asking for now. I went like, will you just let me speak? And then like she had a few more questions of like examples, and like even before I start to answer she would just go, now I'm only asking for one occasion. Like at this stage I didn't even know what the call center was for, because she didn't give me a chance to ask. And then she asked me a question of, if I get a phone call and somebody is freaking out telling me that they locked their child in the car, what do I do? I went, huh? I'm like, say what? And she goes, yeah, we get those quite a lot. I'm like, what is this call center for? So she says to me, it's the roadside assistance. I was like, okay. Well, anyway, like, I'm assuming that you're going to train me on what to say. And I'm like, obviously I'm going to try to calm them down and tell them how long it's going to be before somebody can get their kids out. And yeah, I was just like, that's an odd question to ask me if obviously you're going to train me on what to say, then clearly I'm going to follow what you told me to say. But anyway. Yeah, so then she looked at my CV and she said, yes, I noticed that you spent some time in Florida, so are you gonna have a problem speaking to like people with southern accent from like Texas and South Carolina and all this? And I was like, no, like I'm good with accents. I mean, I lived in Ireland and their accent is pretty strong, and I can understand Scottish accent, so I'm sure a southern accent is like no problem to me. So she still was like sitting there like looking at me. I don't know what she was expecting. And like, bear in mind that going through this whole interview, I mean, if this was the first interview I went through over here, I probably just wouldn't gotten up the first 2 minutes after her tantrum over me not being Stephanie and the shift availability. I would have just gotten up and told her to shove her job and just left. But because I've gone through a few interviews now and I really like just want the job, like at this stage I don't really even, well, I do care what kind of a job it is really, but I mean, going into this, I didn't exactly want the job in the call center, but I thought I may as well try. Maybe it's not going to be as crazy as everybody says. And I forgot to mention, when I was coming into this building, it's sort of like it has like a shopping center vibe, and it's upstairs, and they have like these benches outside the place. And when I was coming in, I seen like all these different people, like some of them looked like students and some were older and just all kinds of people. But they all looked so sad. They just looked like they really didn't want to be there. And I know that many jobs, that's how people feel. But at this stage of my life, I really just want to do something that I enjoy. And I don't want to feel like going into work or into my workplace is a punishment for me. And that's exactly what the people looked like, sitting on those benches eating their little sandwiches, and I was like, I really hope that they're not from the place that I'm going in for the interview, but clearly they were. Oh, actually, going back to that availability conversation we had at the beginning, she had another tantrum over me saying that on the actual ad, it said that there were shifts available from like 7 to 3 or 9 to 5 or whatever it was, and 1 to 9. She sat there and denied that was what it said in the ad. I mean, the night before I went to this interview, I double checked because I wasn't sure where the place was and like whatever. I just wanted to make sure that I knew what was in the ad. And like she sat there and denied that anything like that was mentioned in the ad. And deliberately, like, if I had thought of it, I should have just took my phone out and looked it up for her there. But I mean, it's not really what you do in an interview. Rip your phone out and like, here bitch, this is what it says. So I just sat there and I went, okay, whatever. And like, obviously, she wasn't just going to leave it like that. So she went out and spoke to this recruiter guy again, and she said to him to like double check the ad, which obviously he didn't. But he just said to her that he types up the ads, so he knows. That's how she came back inside, and she said, so the guy outside, he types up the ad and he is 100% sure that it does not say that in the ad. And I went, I'm pretty sure it does say that. She says, well, you could have seen a different ad. I went, I didn't see a different ad. She says, there is a different company that offers those hours, so you must have looked at their ad. I went, last night before I came here I checked the ad and I am 100% sure I looked at your ad, not this other company's ad. So she sits there and she like rolls her eyes again. She's like, this is honestly not worth it, not worth it. Just go home. So then she's still like convinced that she's right and I'm wrong, and she says to me, but anyway, we will double check the ad to see if there could be a typo, but I'm sure there isn't, but there could be. So you just there could be, but there isn't, but there could be. Anyway, after the interview I sat on that sad people bench outside and I looked up the ad and it said the shifts for full-time, which I didn't realize whether I was being interviewed for full-time or part-time, but now I'm thinking about it. I think the phone call asking me to come in for an interview may have said that was the part-time, right? But I didn't remember that or whatever it was. So in the full-time part it says that the shifts available are 9 to 5 and 1 to 9. But still, like, that's what it says in the ad. So for her to claim that I seen the wrong ad and I'm making things up and all this was just like wrong, because it did say that. I mean, honestly. Right, so then from looking at that ad, I seen that it was the wages just said like from to a certain number. So I asked her like what was the actual salary, and so she said the lower number, and then obviously that you get a bonus for like whatever, and I asked her about targets, so she like rolled out all these like targets, like the names that I don't even remember, but like all these targets, if you hit them you get some sort of a bonus. And so the lower number, and then she said if you're bilingual you get the higher number, but and she like glances at my CV, she goes, I'm assuming that you're not bilingual, with like an attitude in her voice, literally like the same way I'm talking now. That's how she was answering me. I'm assuming you're not bilingual. Rolled her eyes again and she goes, yeah, so you will be getting this much. And then she says to me that you get $1,000 bonus after working 2,000 hours, which they must have come up with just because nobody wants to stay there for that long. And I mean, that's, if you're working a 45-hour week for a year, that is 2,000 hours. Like, I know people that work at a different call center, and I mean they hear voices, yeah, so I'm sure that if you work 45 hours a week you go crazy by the time you're even able to reach that 1 year. And if I was there to do part-time, like I would never see this bonus because my visa would be well finished by the time I would have been able to work 2,000 hours. And I mean, honestly, if there's more people like her in that place, I wouldn't last even 2 hours, not 2,000. Yeah, so then she also asked me for 2 references. So I put down a couple phone numbers, and obviously they're in Ireland, so I said to her that Ireland is 5 hours ahead, and she went, huh? I'm like, yeah, there's different time in Ireland, so I mean, if you decide to call them at 8 o'clock at night, since you're open 24 hours a day, they're not going to probably answer because it's going to be night there. And I'm just like, okay, let me make a note of that. Yeah, so when the interview was over and she was kind of like became a bit more like a normal person and like went to shake my hand and said thank you for coming in and whatever, then like any normal person I'd say would just leave the office and just let me like collect my stuff and leave. No, she stood there behind my back, like I was trying to like get dressed because it's like really cold in Canada right now, so I was trying to like put all my layers on, but like she stood there like breathing down my neck. I was like, bitch, like let me get dressed, do you mind? No, she just like stood there and like stared. That like, so I just grabbed my jacket and I was like, out of there, I'll just get dressed on the sad bench outside, thanks. And while I sat on the sad bench, this older lady came out of another door that belongs to the call center, and like even in her walk you could hear she was angry and unhappy. Like she like stomped, and like the way she sat down as well, she like threw herself down onto the bench, like, you know, having the hissy fit, and opened up her little sandwich and like started like chomping at it. I really wanted to ask her like how is it to work for this call center, but like looking at her, how I thought she was gonna hit me with the sandwich if I asked her a question. So I didn't, but I mean that gave me a very good impression of what it's probably like to work there. In the end, it was more like a no thank you, bye. Yeah, so this is the story of how I went for this great interview and how some people get a great power rush from like being able to have somebody else's life in their hands. But yeah, maybe one day if this lady ever watches this video, she will think about her behavior and not do that to other people. If I were more of like a scared kind of a person, like, "Ooh, don't hurt me," like I probably would have started crying the way she was like going on. I just like sat there and like just looked at her and went, bitch, you got problems. So don't take them out on me, but problems. Anyway, so if you enjoyed hearing this great story of mine and you want to hear more of my job hunting funny stories, then definitely give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below and subscribe so you don't miss them. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!
Just a touch of your love is enough to knock me off of my feet, oh, just a touch of your love, just a touch of your love.